Hi, welcome to Crime in the Mitten. We are your hosts. I'm Shelby.
And I'm Alia.
Every week, you'll hear a new true crime story based in Michigan, from the mysterious missing cases to the gruesome murders that left the police struggling to stay on the scene. We're giving you the inside scoop on what's going on in our Mitten state. Tune in every Wednesday for your weekly dose of Michigan true crime.
So today I'm going to pick up where I left off with the Oakland County Child Killer. Where I left off last time was on the suspects in the investigation. So there were quite a few suspects of the Oakland County Child Killer. The investigators working on the case put together a profile of the killer based on what the witnesses saw and all the descriptions they gave of a man talking to Timothy. That was all they had to go by. It was a white male with a dark complexion, 25 to 35 years old, with shaggy hair and sideburns. They believed that he had a job that gave him freedom of movement and may have appeared to be someone a child can trust. He also believed to be familiar with the area and had the ability to keep children for long periods of time without neighbors being suspicious. After the disappearance of the third victim, 10-year-old Christine Murlock, a task force was formed in an old abandoned school. The task force checked out more than 18,000 tips, which resulted in about two dozen arrests on unrelated charges, just like people calling in stuff that they thought was about the child murders, but it wasn't, and then it really led to other cases being solved.
Oh, well, that's hopeful in the end.
Yeah. The investigation also led to the busting of the multi-state child pornography ring operating on North Fox Island in Lake Michigan. After the investigation, not much was found, and the task force disbanded in late 1978, turning the case over to the state police. Alan and Frank were the first suspects of the murders. No last names, just Alan and Frank.
Yeah. They really don't got last names?
A few weeks after the death of Timothy King, Detroit psychiatrist Dr. Bruce Danto, who worked with the task force, received a poorly spelled guilt-written letter. The writer identified himself as Alan and claimed to be the roommate of Frank, who was the Oakland County Child Killer. The letter was full of pleading, fear, and remorse about how he was losing his sanity and basically suicidal.
So this was like a claim from the guy's roommate?
Yeah. The killer's roommate, or the so-called killer's roommate.
Yeah.
He just wrote in a letter because he felt guilty, basically, for knowing all this information and not helping out.
Wait, how long after was this?
Just a couple weeks.
Just a couple of weeks?
Later.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
He was able to convince Danto that he was really, like, genuine about, like, he really made the psychiatrist think he was guilty about what he did. So Alan wrote that he was with Frank on many road trips looking for boys, but never there during the abductions of the boys that Frank murdered. Alan said that Frank drove a Gremlin, but junked it in Ohio.
But remember, they said that the Gremlin had nothing to do with it. Yeah. So does he know this does he know this information? Like, did they ever go public with?
They didn't mention that the Gremlin had nothing to do with it till later.
Right, but that's been like the big key point on it, though. So, like, if you wanted to frame someone,
don't mention the Gremlin.
I mean, right? Wow, that's crazy because it's like, they did all this to prove, like, like they went and when they actually found out, like, no, this had nothing to do with it. Like, people were still going off of like, well, no, I was with him. Yeah, but he's like, I was with him when he picked up these boys and stuff like that. Like, okay, that had nothing to do with it, but now we got to look into something else that you did. What were you doing with these boys?
Right. Did you make this up, or like, was this really going on?
Right.
He stated that Frank was traumatized by killing children who served in the Vietnam War. His goal was to get revenge on wealthier people like the ones in Birmingham. He wanted rich people to suffer for sending forces to Vietnam and received nothing in return. Allen instructed Dr. Danto to respond by printing the code words, "Weather Bureau says trees to bloom in 3 weeks," in the Sunday's Free Press. Then he got a phone call from Allen offering to give up photographic evidence in exchange for a letter from the Michigan governor guaranteeing immunity from prosecution. Danto arranged to meet with him at a bar called the Pony Cart Bar. Allen never showed up, and he was never heard from again.
So after that, he just went ghost. He went ghost. Like,
yeah, basically.
They never heard of this guy. Like, heard from him again.
No, he just vanished.
That's creepy. That's really creepy. Like, we're
no last names. Not even sure this is his first name. They couldn't do a comparison in writing because it was so terrible. They just
wow.
They didn't have anybody to compare the writing to. So
he didn't enlist in the military like they assumed one of the
right,
last suspects. Right. They didn't rule that out. Honestly, that was kind of silly though, because it was like you didn't check your data file. Like, you couldn't go in like and check a database or something like of who. I'm not gonna get into that. Right.
They just didn't try.
Honestly, though, I think that I wonder if someone could have like gotten rid of him. Possibly. Like they might have heard of like.
Part knew he wrote this. It was his roommate.
Yeah,
he
so.
Wrote the letter
and I'm pretty sure you're acting suspicious. Like, oh god, any minute they're gonna get him.
Right.
So who knows?
Maybe he was taken care of. Archibald Edward Sloan was a pedophile who victimized young boys in his neighborhood. And the pictures I gave you, Shelby.
Mm-hmm.
He is the second guy.
The second one?
Yep.
He looks like a
He looks creepy.
Not creepy. What's the like a Scrooge? He looks creepy, but like he looks like the Scrooge from A Christmas Carol a little. Or like gosh, I can't think of the movie right now, but it's gonna come to me as soon as it's over with. Gosh, it's irritating. But no, he looks kind of like a Christmas Ghost Story. Kind of scary.
All of these pictures that we're referencing will be posted on the website. He became a suspect when hair samples found in his 1966 Pontiac Bonneville matched hair found on the bodies of Tim King and Mark Stebbins. It was later discovered that the hair did not match Sloan, nor were they found on other victims. Sloan just lent his car out to his pedophile friends, and so it could have been any one of his friends.
Why would you lend your car out like that?
They work together.
That's really ew.
Exactly. It's disgusting.
But then, that's not smart on his end, though, because if anything was happening in that car, it all falls, it all falls back on him.
Falls back on him, and he was the suspect of it. And I guess didn't rat out any of his friends.
Wow, you couldn't, no.
Yes, it's gross.
It's very gross.
John Wayne Gacy was also a suspect for a moment in the case. A witness to the abduction of Timothy King, the guy that I was saying, he saw Tim on his skateboard and then talking to an older guy.
Mm-hmm.
So this was apparently the older guy that he thought he saw Tim talking to.
He thought it might have been John Wayne Gacy.
Mm-hmm.
Did they know if John was with
he
Gacy?
Was in town at the time, but later on in 2003 when they went back and did DNA testing, it wasn't him.
Oh, okay. So it ruled him out.
Yep, that completely ruled him out.
Hmm.
So, another suspect, police in Parma Heights, Ohio, arrested Theodore Lamborghini, a retired auto worker believed to be involved in the child porn ring in the 1970s. On March 27, 2007, investigators told a Detroit television station that Lamborghini was considered the top suspect in the case. He pleaded guilty to 15 sex-related counts, including young boys, instead of accepting a plea bargain that would have required him to take a polygraph test in the Oakland County Child Killings. He also rejected an offer of a reduced sentence in exchange for a polygraph test.
So he just really didn't want to talk about the Oakland County killings at all.
No. He wanted nothing to do with that.
I mean, sometimes no answer is like an answer in itself.
Yeah.
Like, kind of told on himself.
What we learned from Crime Junkie is to never take the polygraph.
Well, yeah, but then, yeah, that's true that they say that though. But like, when you're wrong, then you should take the polygraph test so we can just know.
In October 2007, the family of Mark Stebbins filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Lamborghini, suing him for $25,000. The lawsuit alleges that Lamborghini, who lived in Metro Detroit in the late 1970s, abducted Mark and held him captive in a Royal Oak house for days before smothering him to death during a sexual assault. Lamborghini has never been formally linked or charged in the death of Mark Stebbins. Attorney David A. Binkley has sought compensation, including funeral costs, for Mark Stebbins' brother, but stressed that money was secondary. So that they sued him, they weren't really going for money, they just wanted him arrested.
Mm-hmm. Like some kind of justice served.
Right. Oh, and then the picture of Theodore Lamborghini, you see the first one, and he looks more creepy than the first dude.
I don't know. The second guy, the Sloan guy, still looks creepy. He still tops
He
him.
does. Really?
Yeah, he still tops it. He looks a lot more creepy than Lamborghini does. I'm telling you, I'm gonna remember what movie this is that it reminds me off of, and it's gonna irritate me because it's gonna be once I go home.
Just text me.
Okay.
We'll put it on the site. Chris Bush was the main suspect in the case. He's the big guy there. Timothy King's father and brother, Chris, the one who went out and searched for him the night he was missing, tried to get Michigan State Police to release information about Chris Bush, who was the son of Harold Lee Bush, a high-level General Motors executive. Chris Bush had been in the police custody shortly before Timothy's abduction for suspected involvement in the child pornography ring. That'll be the next case, of course, along with this one. He allegedly committed suicide on November of 1978. And that picture is the bedroom that he allegedly committed suicide.
Yeah. It looks really messy for it to be a suicide.
Yeah. That room looks...
It looks trash.
It looks disgusting.
And
then it might have something to do with the picture quality as well, and like the dark colors, but...
No, the room is trash. The trash is trash.
But no, it just make it the picture quality and the way... Not really a filter.
Yeah. I get what you're trying to say.
It makes it look just older.
Off, yeah.
He allegedly committed suicide, but there was no gunshot residue or blood spatter, or they did find 4 shell casings in his room, but there was just 1 shot in the middle of his forehead.
And there was like no residue on his hands or anything?
Nope. They just said it was suicide.
What? Well, okay.
Maybe it was because
it was a suspect or something in the case that they were just like, okay, he's
right
off our hands now or something like that.
I guess so.
Even then, I don't know. I'm really confused with how policing and investigation worked back then. I'm really just it just throws me.
Just the bullet hole between his eyes, like no blood splatter, nothing else, just the shot. In his apartment, in the picture that I showed you, there was the only thing found, any type of evidence found, was a hand-drawn image of a boy closely resembling Mark Stebbins screaming in agony, which was pinned to his wall.
No, this looks really creepy.
It looks scary.
It does,
and it looks like Mark.
Yeah, and I remember, I don't know, I remember seeing it because you know how when we got Google Docs together. And I look at all your pictures and stuff like that. This is the first one. Yeah, this is the first one that you put on there. And it was like, I got to keep looking at this until
I update it again.
Yeah, it was really creepy to just go on there and look at. Think about it. I'm checking Google Docs at like 4 a.m. sometimes.
That's your fault.
What's like? I know it's really creepy though. How can you sleep with something like that on your wall every night? Or like,
and then did he sleep with that on his wall, or was that pinned there when
or it could have been,
this
yeah.
quote unquote suicide happened? Did they pin that there?
That's true. It is. It's very true. So I mean, I don't. Wow, that's the whole theory. I didn't even.
And he was just tucked neatly into his bed.
It could have been. You could have like they could have set up something like that, like and framed him. So like, okay, he's gone now. Let it die with him. I can see that happen.
But after that, they heard nothing else from the child killer for 20 months after his death.
Yeah, so either he was the killer or whoever killed him pinned it on him.
Yeah. So now we're going to move on. We're done with all the suspects for the child killings, and we're going to move on to North Fox Island. The Fox Islands consist of North Fox and South Fox Islands in Lake Michigan. The uninhabited islands are part of Leelanau County, Michigan, and administered by the Leelanau Township. North Fox Island is the smaller of the two islands, about 2 miles wide and 1 mile long. The island has an airstrip that is about 3,000 feet long, making it accessible to anyone with a plane, like the guys I'm going to talk about now.
Mm-hmm.
During the time of the child murders, there were other things taking place, but didn't get that much attention. They didn't find out about the sex ring until they were investigating the murders.
Right.
Yeah. So, there's not much information you can really find on the sex ring. Like, one, because there wasn't much, they didn't really talk about it that much because they were talking about the child murders. And then I guess the guys were just really good at what they did and covering up what they did.
Yeah, I remember you was going on like how you couldn't, like it was really hard finding anything about that.
Well, I did find a lot of information. If you listen to Don't Talk to Strangers podcast, one of the episodes is all about the sex ring, and we only covered the one that took place in Michigan. She covered more of the Indiana and the ones that happen in other states. Also, if you watched a docuseries that Click on Detroit did, it's called The Child Killer docuseries, and chapter 1 is all about the porn ring, and they actually interview a few of the students that were taken to
really?
Yep.
And weren't they trying to say like the North Fox Island originally was like an island where like if your kids were acting up, your kids were acting up, bring them to this island, and we were going to like.
No, they actually took the good kids from the school to this island.
What?
They took the good kids.
Wow. See, I never knew that. I always thought that like they tried to take like the quote unquote troubled kids there and like.
Well, they weren't kids in the interview, but the guys that were interviewed, he actually said they were selected because they did so good in gym class.
In gym class,
he was Francis D. Sheldon was their gym teacher, and he had all this money, and he owned the island and the plane. So why was he a gym teacher? But he had the island and the plane, and he got the kids' permission. Loaded them up on, or their parents' permission, loaded them up on a plane and took them to the island.
And flew them over to the island.
If you look on the last page of pictures, there's actually,
wow.
him and the boys on the island.
It's quite a few boys too. This is like a summer camp kind of picture.
It looks like a summer camp.
Yeah, and there's, I don't know, if you look at one of them, the little boys look sad in the picture. I don't know if that I know it means something, but like he looks really sad in this picture. And
it was actually said that was, I don't know if that was that particular boy, but oh yeah, I see which one you're talking about. He, one of the guys that was interviewed said that him and his friend, being boys, found a log full of snakes. So when they went back to show everybody the snakes, they were all gone. The guys, the other boys, they were all gone.
Right.
And from a distance, they could hear a kid screaming. And he was older. He said that boy was a grade older than them.
Mm-hmm.
So what was he to do?
Right.
As a child, there was no way he could save them. They were the only ones on the island.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
after that, the kid was just quiet and standoffish.
Wow. So that
could be him.
Yeah, that could be him because he just really looks out of place
depressed.
compared to everybody else that's smiling.
That's
Well, I don't know. There's
smiling.
2 of them that's kind of like down, but like that one, he really is really
The one
noticeable.
sitting down.
And then it's the one that's standing up behind him.
Yeah, he just looked like he's staring off into space.
Yeah, that's why I was like, not as much
He
as
just
the other
looked
one. That's to me in the picture. I normally, what's the name? I always like days off right when everybody like takes the picture. I don't know what's wrong with me.
So I was talking about Francis D. Sheldon. He was the owner of the islands and used the island and the airstrip to his advantage. He worked as a gym teacher and had a job for the YMCA in Ann Arbor, working with boys ages 7 through 16, right at the age where he needed them.
Yeah, so he just really was just, yeah.
He had everything he needed.
Just like at his disposal.
And
then that kind of goes in with, like, if we want to kind of take it back to the Oakland County Child Killer, that's like that's a trusting job. Like, I know my brothers, they trust like their coaches. They're like, that's like the closest, like that's like a really good relationship they got. Like, they're really close with their coach and stuff. So I can see how he can like.
Yeah, I remember that in school.
Yeah,
that's who they were always with.
Yeah, no, trust me, it used to be really irritating though, to the point where like my mom would be like, "No, I gotta pick you up because they'll drop you off," and I'm like, "That's their coach. Like, why do I always get stuck in the middle of this?
I have to ride with them.
Right?
They stink.
It's right. They smell like sweat."
Sheldon, along with several other like-minded, disgusting men, decided to combine their interests and start Brother Paul's Children's Mission, a nature camp for boys ages 7 through 16 on his tiny, isolated, inhabited island. The organization had been tax exempt status as a charity from the Internal Revenue Service. The problem was, Brother Paul's was just a front, of course.
Front, yeah. I mean, of course.
Right. Pictures later the boys were forced and persuaded to do sexual acts as they were photographed. Pictures later turned up in magazines, and of course it was noticeable that they were taken on the island.
Right. Like just looking in the background and things like that.
And then it was so small. And other people in Leelanau County frequently visited the island because it was an open island. Although it belonged to him, it was still an open island. It had beaches and everything else there. So
people knew what it looked like. Yeah.
Like, it was just so small. You know where you are.
You know, it's like we were watching First 48 last night, and we seen so serious. We seen 3 houses, and I was like, that's Detroit. Like, so serious. The next thing you know, it was like Detroit, Michigan. But I'm like, you just know. You just know your area.
Yeah.
And so I definitely get. No, that's good that they were able to recognize that though.
And one of the guys that was interviewed, who was taken to the island as a kid, said there were cameras everywhere. And as a kid, that's not something you notice. But he said, thinking back, there were cameras everywhere. Like, they were persuaded to run on the beach naked. Like, oh, it's camp. That's what you're supposed to do. You're on the beach. It's an island. That's what you're supposed to do. And they thinking, to them, they're little kids. They like, oh, this is the best thing that ever happened to me. They felt that like it was the Bahamas. Like, they were excited. It was like, oh no, everyone does it. That's what you're supposed to do.
I done been to a lot of camps in my life, Alia, but I've never ran naked on the beach.
I was always too excited to go to any type of camp.
Oh no, my grandma did not play that. She was like, "You're not gonna stay here all summer, so you need to be in somebody's camp."
But that picture you just flipped from, at the bottom is the cabin.
Oh, okay. That the cabin that the boys stayed in, and it looks like a legit summer camp, like a little cabin, like off of Parent Trap kind of vibes.
Yeah.
No, it do. Like, it looks like.
That's the only real cabin I've seen in my life.
Right.
Bear trap.
That's when you know it's real. Oh gosh, Leah. But no, wow. And it like it can house a lot of quite a few boys too. It's pretty. It's a nice size
with bunk beds and everything.
It was bunk beds and stuff. Wow, that's messed up.
Yeah.
And then this is where you got a picture of the map where North Fox Island is too.
Yeah, it's between the Upper and Lower Peninsula.
Right, like right in the middle.
Yep, right in the middle in Lake Michigan.
Mm. Wow, that's crazy. Like you don't know, like just think like you didn't. People that was going on this island visiting didn't even know like they were visiting like an island where all this stuff was going on.
They didn't even know. They were just going for a getaway.
Mm-hmm.
And all of this stuff was going on.
Wow.
Authorities caught on by the summer of 1976, and Brother Paul's chief organizer, Gerald Richards, was arrested on charges of criminal sexual conduct with a minor. Shortly after, Sheldon was charged, but by then he had cleared out his Ann Arbor and Island homes and fled on his private plane.
Of course he did.
Yeah. They're guessing like his friend like let him know like, hey, they're coming for you. They just got me. They're coming for you next.
Right, and then you just know like if you can't call your mans one day.
Right.
They got him.
Well, after you call twice, you should know. Like, you call.
If I don't answer after the second one,
especially when you caught up in something like that, you should know if your friend not answering on the first ring.
Something's most likely. Yeah, so it gave him time
to get his stuff and go.
Yeah.
Like he just took everything and left. The twin engine plane was later discovered in Arizona. His father believed his son was out of the country. And they don't know what happened to him. He just vanished.
There's so many people in this case that just vanished, Leah, like into thin air.
They're just gone.
I really find it hard to believe.
What's happening to all of these people?
Everybody that's like kind of key in this, like, just disappears.
He had the money to disappear though, so it's not. I don't even think anybody killed him. I just think
he really
just really left.
Pulled, yeah, wow. Tried to pull a Luca Magnotta. That whole thing that documentary that's going on right now. That's crazy.
Yeah, he just decided to leave.
Just disappear one day. He
want nothing else to do with it. Or he probably did, or like they said, they don't know if he really disappeared. Oh. But yeah, that's the end of the North Fox Island case. Okay. Is that there was nothing you can really... Googling it, there's nothing you can find. Even Wikipedia gave nothing. Like, it literally gave a little description.
Although we don't like Wikipedia, but even Wikipedia failed you?
A tiny description of North Fox Island, and then it said there was said to have been a sex ring.
Yeah, but isn't this also the sex ring where they thought like a lot of government officials and stuff might have been involved? So that might have definitely played a part.
Yeah, because they were rich. Nobody actually like caught up with them. Same as Sheldon, he had money. They got his friend who had less money than him.
Right.
But they never actually found him. So it was more like a subscription service. If you donate, you get to come to the island. Or if you donate, we send you pictures or videos or whatever.
They had a whole like Patreon kind of thing going on.
Patreon. We ain't even got Patreon yet.
Like, so these are the OGs of Patreon pretty much.
Basically.
Wow. Like, no, that's pretty much like memberships, levels to this, packages.
Yeah.
That's crazy. No, that really blows my mind. Like when you said it, like packages, Leah.
It was a full subscription service
Okay.
before subscription services were a thing.
That's really sick. That is. It makes you really not trust schools. This is a gym teacher doing all of this.
I mean, people aren't so big now on just sending their kids places, especially like that. Okay, a field trip, you go for a couple hours. A school trip with the whole school, okay, that's one thing. But sending, like, hey, I'm going to take these 3 boys to my island. Do I have your permission? I don't think parents will really jump on that now. Like, no, we'll pass.
Yeah, they're a little more cautious because of all the stuff that's going on now. But I mean, like, I'm trying to say, like, I think, like, if my brother's coach would have asked them, like, hey, like, we all going on a trip. Because there's been times where, like, no, so serious. Like, my mom has gotten a bunch of kids. Like, we've traveled, like, it's been times where we went to the Michigan games and, like, it's like 10 of us in the car and my mom picked up, like, 10 people's kids. And I'm like, how did you get these people's kids? Do parents know? Sometimes they don't even know that their kids are all the way in Ann Arbor.
Right.
So, I don't know. It really depends on, like, the relationship you got with that kid. Like, that family, too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, that's why it's scary. That's scary.
So I don't want to say that's different sending kids with the coaches we knew and we grew up with.
I don't know. You hear about a lot of stuff that's coming out about the coaches that we grew up with.
Yeah, so maybe it's not different.
I hadn't seen a couple articles pop up and I was like, oh my gosh, it was true.
Keep scrolling. Yeah, I don't want anything to do with this.
Yeah, I'm scared enough. I don't even think I want to cover that on this.
No.
That's touchy.
Okay, so yeah, that wraps up the investigation of the Oakland County Child Killer as well as North Fox Island. Mm-hmm. But we do have a podcast that we have to shout out, or that we wanted to shout out. They reached out to us and we listened to their show and they listened to ours.
Yeah, and their name is Forensic Miles, and they had this episode on the Excedrin poison, and I was listening to it last night.
Yeah, you said
I said because like I take Excedrin a lot, so I was like I had to figure out what was that. Like I'm like, is we good now? But it was a really good episode, and it was like I like how like they're pretty much set up like how we're set up, and just like two people telling each other stories telling stories and stuff like that. And she knew her information. Like she was on it. Like the cases, like the stories that she had was really good. And I feel a lot better that, they kind of got an idea of what was going on with it, because I just bought a bottle of Excedrin like earlier that week. And I was like, I didn't listen to the episode before I bought this. Like, I was like, when did this happen? Like, I was scared. But no, they're a really good podcast to listen to, though. They're on their second episode now, but I'm pretty sure they got like good things coming.
That'd be cool. That'll be something we can listen to.
Yeah, we listen to a lot of true crime podcasts on Sundays and Mondays.
Yeah, so we use Sundays and Mondays to set aside to listen to other people's shows. And next week, I feel like we'll have someone else to shout out. She sends us her episode, or her episode 2 is not out yet. Episode 1 was really good. But she, every week, she makes sure she sends out a message to everybody.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, she sends out a message
so
to everybody. Yeah, she's really nice.
Yeah. Well, other than that, though, are you okay from this morning? Alia lost the entire transcript for the episode this morning.
I had to retire.
Called me in the middle of brushing my teeth. I cut my gums because she scared me.
Her gums.
And I was like, I'll help you when I leave.
I normally, on Saturday mornings, I get up at 7 to make sure, on the weeks that I record, I try to get up at 7, make sure I have everything together. I'm like, all I have to do is print it out. I don't have to get anything together. Woke up at 8:30 and we have to be here at 11. Took my time showering, brush my teeth, get dressed, go to the printer, and everything's missing. All my pictures, my transcript, my outline, everything. So I didn't redo the outline. I redid half of what I had. So I'm pretty sure I was missing quite a bit of information. But I went from a 5-page transcript to 3 or 2.5. So I don't know what's missing.
It happens.
I don't even remember. I was stressed out and I had an hour left to go.
I know, but then remember I told you, I was like, don't stress it, because that's why we plan ahead and stuff like that, because I'm like, if you don't have a case ready, I got like 3 or 4 that either you want to read or I'll take over. It doesn't matter. But I was like, gosh, why she got to call me when I'm brushing my teeth? That's really all I was worried about. Like, I couldn't say anything. I was like, that's like, you know how you first put the toothbrush in and you like really getting, yeah. And I'm like, now I'm stressed. I'm bleeding. This is not how I planned on. And then I was running late. I woke up really behind. So, yeah. Way to throw my morning off. Thanks.
This was a stressful week. Coming off vacation and then having to finish research. It was a lot.
I know. But you did it, and I'm proud of you.
Didn't think I was gonna make it this
I
morning.
really, it was a second where I was like, she cutting it close. And you my best friend. I'm like, I don't know. I've seen her pull off stuff at school but I was like, I
That
don't know.
was
You cutting it
different.
off. Yeah, you cutting it close.
That was different. School wasn't a real job. This is a job.
Leave it to certain people. They say it was parents.
Sample.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you for listening to Crime and the Men. You can find the transcripts, pictures we've discussed, as well as the links to our references at our website. There, you can also find the links to all of our social media. If you have a case you'd like us to talk about, you can leave a comment down below or go to the Contact Us page of the website and leave a suggestion. Each month, we will choose one for an episode. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps a lot.